The signs aren't hiding anymore, they're screaming at us. You can see it in the way people talk to each other now, as if kindness is a rare currency no one can afford to spend. You can hear it in the constant noise of arguments, scandals, and breaking news that feels more like breaking hearts. You can feel it in the air, an unshakable heaviness, like the atmosphere before a storm that you know is coming, even if the clouds haven't fully gathered yet. These aren't whispers from the edges of society anymore, they're shouts from the center. They're in our homes, our schools, our governments, our entertainment, our streets, and somehow, even with all the noise, we've gotten better at tuning it out instead of confronting it. The world has become like a house where every smoke alarm is going off, but instead of putting out the fire, we've learned to sleep through it. Every headline that once shocked us now barely makes us blink, because our threshold for chaos has been pushed further and further. Violence no longer comes with the same weight. It's just another scene in the endless movie we call life. Injustice doesn't shock us. It trends for a day, then vanishes into yesterday's feed. And while all of this is happening, we tell ourselves it's just the way things are now. But deep down, you know better. Deep down, you feel it. Something has shifted, and not for the better. The signs are no longer subtle, like whispers from a concerned friend. They're like a stranger grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking you. Yet we brush it off because acknowledging it means we have to do something, and doing something means discomfort, and discomfort is the one thing we've been taught to avoid at all costs. But comfort is not safety, it's sedation. It's the warm blanket you wrap around yourself while the walls are on fire. Every time we choose to look away, we give permission for the darkness to step further in, and one day the light we thought would always be there won't be. Comfort has replaced conviction, and we don't even notice. We used to fight for what we believed in, even if it cost us friends, opportunities, or approval. Now we'll trade the truth for peace and call it wisdom, when really it's fear wearing a disguise. We choose the path of least resistance, not because it's right, but because it's easier. The edges of our moral backbone have been sanded down until nothing sharp remains, nothing that could possibly cut against the grain of culture. We avoid hard conversations, not because we don't have the words, but because we're terrified of how they'll be received. And slowly, without realizing it, we've stopped standing for anything at all. We've built lives padded with comfort, soft chairs, soft routines, soft beliefs that won't disturb anyone, but comfort is a subtle thief. It steals your urgency, your passion, your willingness to risk. It convinces you that staying quiet is smart, that blending in is safe. It tells you the goal is to be liked, not to be right. And because comfort feels good in the moment, we ignore the fact that it's slowly draining the life out of us. We wake up one day and realize we haven't taken a stand in years, and by then, the ability to do so feels foreign, almost impossible. We don't even notice the trade we've made, truth for approval, fire for familiarity, conviction for convenience. We think we're avoiding conflict, but what we're really avoiding is growth. We think we're protecting ourselves, but what we're really doing is erasing ourselves. And every day we choose comfort over conviction, we lose another piece of who we were meant to be. Darkness doesn't ask for permission, it moves in when light leaves. It doesn't knock on the door and politely wait for you to open it. It slips in through cracks you didn't even realize were there. It comes in subtle, disguised as small compromises, little lies, tiny justifications you tell yourself to feel better. It hides in the corners at first, quiet and patient, knowing you'll get used to its presence if it doesn't move too fast. And by the time you finally notice, it's no longer in the corner, it's in the center, and you're the one pushed to the edge. The absence of light is not neutral, it's an invitation. When truth is removed from the conversation, deception fills the silence. When integrity steps back, corruption steps forward. When God's presence is ignored, something else takes his place. And that something else doesn't care about your comfort, your safety, or your soul. It feeds on the very things you thought you could control, and the most dangerous part, you might mistake its arrival for freedom. Because darkness doesn't need to convince you it's better, it just needs to convince you that light is unnecessary. Once it does that, it owns the space, it rewrites the rules, it reshapes your vision until wrong feels right and right feels intolerant. It tells you to mind your own business, stay in your lane, and stop shining so bright. And if you listen long enough, you'll stop resisting, not because you lost the fight, but because you forgot there was even a fight to begin with. The things we once called wrong are now celebrated. Actions that used to bring shame are now broadcast for likes. Behaviors we once warned our children about are now marketed as self-expression and freedom. We've taken the word tolerance and twisted it until it means embracing anything, no matter how destructive, as long as it feels good in the moment. We don't just allow darkness anymore. We throw it a parade and call it progress. What once made us drop our heads in grief now makes us raise our glasses in applause. And here's the dangerous part. It didn't happen all at once. The line didn't move overnight. It shifted slowly, so slowly that most people didn't notice. A little compromise here, a softened truth there, a joke that made sin feel charming instead of deadly. Before long, the standard that anchored us became a vague suggestion, and then, eventually, an inconvenience to be removed. What was sacred became casual. What was guarded became mocked, and we laughed right along with it. The celebration of wrong isn't just a sign of moral collapse. It's the proof that the collapse has already happened. You can't cheer for what destroys you unless you've been convinced it's harmless, and that's exactly what's happened. We've been entertained into apathy, flattered into blindness, and convinced that calling something wrong makes us the problem, so we go silent and the celebration gets louder. Nature itself is groaning, but we scroll past the headlines. The earth shakes, the seas rise, the skies burn red, and yet we treat it like background noise to our daily routine. Hurricanes level cities, wildfires consume forests, floods wipe out entire neighborhoods, and within minutes we're back to watching cooking videos and laughing at memes. The planet is sounding an alarm so loud it can't be ignored, but somehow we've trained ourselves to hit mute. Every storm, every earthquake, every strange weather pattern is a cry for attention. It's not just climate change or natural cycles. It's creation itself responding to the absence of the one who holds it together. The Bible says all of creation groans, and right now you can hear it if you choose to listen. But the tragedy is that we've become too distracted, too desensitized, too comfortable to hear the groaning over the sound of our own entertainment. We've mistaken warnings for inconveniences. We say things like, well, disasters have always happened, just so we can avoid facing the reality that they're increasing, intensifying, and clustering together in a way that screams, something is deeply wrong. But instead of pausing, we keep scrolling. Instead of turning our hearts toward God, we turn our eyes toward the next distraction. And the more we ignore it, the louder the groaning gets, until one day it won't just be a headline in another country. It will be the sound outside your own window. Leaders chase applause instead of truth, and we clap along. We've traded shepherds for showmen, guides for performers. The people we once looked to for direction now look to us for validation. They say what we want to hear, not what we need to hear, because truth doesn't trend, but flattery does. And the more applause they get, the more addicted they become to it, until the mission isn't leading anymore, it's pleasing. And we, the audience, keep feeding it. We reward charisma over character. We celebrate the polished image instead of the proven integrity. We've created a culture where popularity is the qualification and substance is optional. Leaders now measure their worth by how many cheers they can gather, not by how many lives they can actually guide to safety. And because applause feels so good, they start bending the truth just enough to keep it coming. We don't just allow it, we encourage it. The tragedy is that the more they perform, the less they protect. And when leaders stop protecting, the people suffer. But instead of holding them accountable, we scroll, we laugh, we share, we like, and in doing so we join the performance, we become part of the show. And the more we clap, the more we ensure that truth stays buried under the noise of standing ovations for words that will never save us. Silence has become the safest choice, and the deadliest. We've convinced ourselves that keeping quiet keeps the peace, but all it really does is hand the microphone to the loudest lies. We bite our tongues when we see something wrong because we don't want the backlash, the labels, the "who do you think you are" whispers. We tell ourselves it's better to stay out of it, to let someone else speak up. But here's the truth. Someone else isn't coming. and every second we stay silent, the wrong voice gets louder. Fear of rejection has replaced fear of being complicit. We've become more afraid of offending someone than of allowing destruction to continue unchecked. We forget that history has never been changed by the silent majority. It's always been changed by the courageous few who are willing to risk being misunderstood. But today, too many of us have traded that courage for comfort, and in doing so, we've left the battlefield wide open for the enemy to move without resistance. Silence doesn't protect you. It partners with what you refuse to confront. It's not neutral, it's an endorsement, and the longer we keep our heads down, the more we teach the next generation that speaking truth is dangerous, but going along with the crowd is safe. By the time we realize that silence has cost us everything, it won't just be our voices that are gone, it will be our freedom to use them at all. What we tolerate today will destroy us tomorrow. Every small compromise we allow, every wrong we excuse, every truth we soften, it all plants seeds. And seeds don't stay small. They grow silently at first, until one day they've taken root so deeply that ripping them out feels impossible. The evil we ignore now doesn't disappear. It strengthens, it multiplies, it gains confidence because we've shown it there's no resistance. And by the time we realize what it's become, it's no longer a seed. It's a tree with roots under our own feet. We think tolerance is kindness, but it's not kindness to let someone walk toward a cliff without saying a word. We think we're being patient, but patience without boundaries is permission. Every time we tell ourselves it's not a big deal, we push the door open wider for something that is a big deal to walk through. What we excuse today will demand acceptance tomorrow, and once it's accepted, it will be celebrated, and by then opposing it will make you the villain. History proves it. No nation, no culture, no family has ever been destroyed overnight. It always starts with tolerating a little compromise, a little corruption, a little darkness. We never see it as the beginning of the end, but that's exactly what it is. What you let live today will rule you tomorrow. And the cost will be far higher than you think. When God's hand moves away, protection goes with it. You can't take away the umbrella and still expect to stay dry when the storm comes. We have lived for so long under blessings we didn't earn, and protection we didn't even recognize, assuming it would always be there. But what happens when the one holding back the floodgates steps aside? What happens when the shield we've depended on is no longer in place? The storms that used to pass over begin to land right where we stand. It's not that God stops caring, it's that he honors our choice to push him away. If a nation tells him, "We don't want you here," eventually he allows them to see what life is like without him. And when that happens, the things we thought were coincidences, close calls, disasters that somehow didn't touch us, are revealed for what they really were. Moments of divine protection we didn't even thank him for. Without that covering, the blows land harder, the losses cut deeper, the darkness moves faster. We've mistaken God's patience for permission. We thought that because nothing bad happened yet, it meant we were safe. But protection is not guaranteed when the protector is no longer welcome. And once his hand moves away, it's not just nature, politics, or society that shift its everything. Safety turns to vulnerability. Stability turns to chaos, and the things we thought could never happen here start happening right in front of us. Warning always comes before collapse. Are we listening? History doesn't lie. Every fallen empire, every ruined city, every culture that crumbled under its own weight. They were all warned. The signs were there, clear, undeniable, and often repeated. Prophets spoke truth. Tellers shouted. Even enemies gave hints of what was coming. But warnings only matter to those willing to hear them. And most of the time, people didn't want to hear. They covered their ears, laughed at the messengers, and kept living like nothing was wrong, right up until everything was. Warnings are mercy in disguise. They are God's way of giving us one last chance before the ground gives way beneath us. But we've become so comfortable, so entertained, so distracted, that warnings feel like an interruption instead of a rescue. We treat them like background noise in a movie we've already decided how it ends. And the danger in that mindset is simple. If you believe collapse is far away, you won't take the steps to prevent it. The world right now is flashing red lights, blaring sirens, and pounding alarms. Morality is in freefall, nature is in upheaval, leaders are chasing applause, truth is being rewritten, and still we say, everything will work itself out. But that's not how collapse works. Collapse doesn't wait for you to be ready. It happens the moment you've convinced yourself it never will. The greatest danger is thinking we still have time. We convince ourselves that change can wait, that the conversation can happen tomorrow, that the apology can be made next week. We tell ourselves there's no rush because the bridge hasn't collapsed yet. But collapse doesn't happen on a schedule you can predict. It happens the moment the last bolt gives way, the moment the final thread snaps, the moment the tipping point is reached without warning. And by then, it's too late to turn back. Procrastination feels safe because it gives us the illusion of control. We think we're choosing the timing, but in reality, time is choosing for us, and it's running out whether we act or not. Every day we delay is a day the cracks widen, a day the foundation weakens, a day the storm clouds gather darker over our heads. But because nothing has fallen yet, we lull ourselves into believing nothing will. That's the most dangerous lie we can tell ourselves. We always think there will be more time, until the moment there isn't, and in that moment regret floods in with a weight that can crush a soul. Regret for the things we didn't say, the stands we didn't take, the moments we let slip away because we thought tomorrow was promised. But tomorrow is never promised. And the greatest tragedy is when the realization comes too late to change anything at all. If you're awake right now, you've been chosen to act. Out of all the people who could be hearing this, you're the one who is. That's not random, it's a calling. The fact that you can see what others ignore, that you can feel the urgency others numb themselves to, means you've been entrusted with a responsibility. Awareness is not given for decoration, it's given for action. If your eyes are open, it's because you're meant to do something with what you see. There are millions who are asleep, drifting through life in comfort, oblivious to the cracks forming under their feet. But you're awake. You can see the bridge shaking. You can hear the alarms in the distance. You can feel in your spirit that time is short. And that awareness is proof that you've been positioned on purpose for a reason bigger than yourself. You're not just a bystander in this moment. You're a participant in the fight for what still matters. And yes, acting will cost you. It will cost you comfort, approval, maybe even relationships. But the cost of doing nothing is far greater. The cost of silence is watching the world crumble while knowing you could have made a difference. So if you're hearing this and your heart is pounding, your pulse is quickening, your mind is racing, that's not anxiety, that's assignment. It's the moment you realize you've been chosen, and chosen people don't wait. They move.